It's the all-wheel drive event at Lithia Ford of Boise. From hunting trips to ski trips to trips to Grandma's house. Nobody does AWD like LFB, Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
Eat Lux your way with the Lux Cravings boxes from Taco Bell. There's the classic $5 box, the indulgent $7 box, and a whole new obsession in the $9 box, the Flamin' Hot Grilled Cheese Burrito. Try the Lux Cravings boxes at Taco Bell today.
Find your sun with Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea. Made with real iced tea and real vodka. Cold, refreshing, and made for moments like these all year long. Let the good times cruise with Sun Cruiser.
As sports fans, we may cheer for different teams, but there's one thing that we can all agree on. We want the game to be big. And with 3 levels, 30 cabanas, a 143-foot screen, 6 clean pools, and endless cold drinks, it doesn't get any bigger or any better than Stadium Swim in Las Vegas. All sports, all seasons. It's more than a pool day. Stadium Swim. It's the only thing like it in the world.
The final buzzer is sounded on another night of Mountain West basketball, and it's time to break down the action with Tom Moser on another night in the Mountain West, presented by Circus Sports. Headed to Las Vegas for the Mountain West tournament in March? Make sure to stay at Circa Las Vegas and watch all the action at Stadium Swim, where the sports are on 365 days a year. Another night in the Mountain West has interviews, analysis, opinions after the final Mountain West basketball game of the day wraps up. All BNN broadcasts come from the Sun Cruiser Studios. Sunny days call for Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea, made with real iced tea and real vodka. It's refreshingly smooth and easy to drink. Crack open a Sun Cruiser and let the good times cruise. The title sponsor of Bronco Nation News is Lithia Ford of Boise. Check out our full inventory of vehicles online at lithiafordboise.com. Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho. Did your team just get a big win? Suffer a bad loss? Come discuss it with us. Send us a comment or question in the ICCU YouTube chat, or leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/BNN. Now let's go to the Sun Cruiser Studios and join Tom Moser for another night in the Mountain West on Bronco Nation News.
What's up, everybody? You are here on another night in the Mountain West. A little different tonight. First of all, how about that new intro right there? Certainly not put together by myself. I'm nowhere near technologically savvy enough to do that. That was all BJ. Just some clips of the coaches and the guests that we've had on here in the first few weeks. So appreciate that. Looks really good. I thought so. But we are trying something a little different tonight. As you guys know, BJ will be on live right after this game goes final here. He's on the scene there in Vegas, and it just running him. Who knows how long his show will run. You know, I don't want to go on after that. So we kind of thought, why not go on here at halftime of this one? The other games will all be final. You can talk about what's happened in the first half to this point. So I think we'll start with that, because I'm sure we have some Bronco fans in here that are watching, maybe other conference fans as well that are watching. But let's talk about what we watch in the first half in Vegas, and then we'll kind of get to the other games. Look, it's what I expected, what we should have expected, right? Yeah, the score right now, let me put it on the screen here, 40-39. UNLV really back and forth game. Pretty well played, to be honest with you, for two teams that are certainly struggling coming in. The big news, Buchanan was ruled out a little bit before game time. I mean, he was on the injury report as questionable. So he being out of the lineup certainly takes away one of Boise's main weapons. Now, you could tell from the game plan, Leon, they want to dump it inside. They're having a little bit of success in there. Let's look at the stats. Both teams shooting it well, about 50%. not shooting it well from deep, a combined 5 for 21 from deep. They're making their free throws. The turnovers are limited. As I said, it's been a pretty well-played game. The one surprise, and it did get cleaned up at the end of the half for Boise, was the Rebels were kind of beating them on the glass a little bit, but Leon and crew got that cleaned up. Now, from an individual perspective, Meadow 10, Fielder 9, Andrews 8. So those three are kind of carrying the load. Carmichael with 5 early, and then he kind of he does have 2 fouls, and Aarons has 3 fouls. For the Rebels, Gibbs, Lawhorn, and Fleming with 10 each. Not a whole lot from the bench. Pastner did sit Hamilton, 11 minutes for Hamilton. He hit a 3, and then of course took 2 others and wasn't close. That's kind of what you're going to get out of him. But listen, I mean, this is going to come right down to the wire. Let's be honest, right? I mean, both teams are what they are. I like the way that they're playing defense for a 40-39 game. I think there's been some pretty good defense. I think the teams are engaged. They're ready to play. They're not at the top of the heap in terms of talent, which we all know at this point, but they're getting after a little bit, and you like to see that, right? Let's see. So Lendl says, because we've all been hard on him, that DA Dylan Andrews doesn't look bad. Utilization of the bigs that is going to be key in the second half. Yeah, look, again, you can tell that that's an emphasis from Leon and his staff to dump it inside, whether he thinks that they're going to get in foul trouble. Stefan, the big guy, certainly is prone to fouls. They seem to want to let it go a little bit as far as what they were calling. They called 9 on each with 18, and there were a lot of possessions, so they could have probably called more, but I thought it was a fairly called half. But yeah, certainly they want to get inside, maybe, Fielder finishes 1 or 2 more of those. I mean, look, who's going to make some shots? Who's going to get some stops, right? That's what it's going to come down to. I don't see, of course I could be wrong, but I don't see either team pulling away. I think this will go right down to the under 4, and we'll see, as Bronco Blueprint says, we started taking a few crazy shots toward the end there. Got to play safe and aggressive. Let's see. Yeah. Timothy with a comment about Steven and CSU. So Parolin, he does like to fire the threes up. Don't know why he is in the corner. I don't know, but I will say, look, this is what we expect. Again, I said it at the top. You got 2 teams that are struggling. You see Pastner, doing his antics as always, trying to get his guys charged up. He's obviously feeling like this is a game. He'll never say this, but there's not going to be a ton of opportunities for his team to get wins. He feels like this is one where they can get. Same thing for Leon. Look, the fact is, I think BJ tweeted out earlier today, the losses that they've taken in conference play are to teams with a record of 17-2, right? They've lost to both of the 5-0 undefeated teams in San Diego State and Utah State, and their other loss of the Grand Canyon, who did have a loss today. But even so, look, it's not like and Nevada has a loss. But, it's not like they've lost to the middle of the pack teams or had a bad loss or 2. Now, they haven't looked particularly good in doing it, but it's not like they're losing to the dregs of society either, okay? So this is a spot where you tend to want to trust Leon and his staff over a 40-minute game in terms of, out-executing the opponent. I have been somewhat critical. Yeah, you're right, Larry, right? They were non-competitive in most of those games. They obviously had a chance to win a San Diego State game, did not have a chance to win a Nevada game, did not have a chance to win a Grand Canyon game, and clearly did not have a chance against Utah State. So, yeah, look, you can kind of skew that either way you want, right? They lost to good teams, but they weren't particularly close. But again, look, a lot of teams are going to have the same results against those 2 top teams. So, look, we know they're not a top 3 or 4 team at this point, but we also know the same thing about UNLV. So this is one where I've seen a lot of doom and gloom. Boise needs a W tonight. Yeah, they certainly do, because they have goals in front of them. Put aside the hopes of reaching the NCAA tournament. It's about playing good basketball. So to go on the road and get a win without one of your better players would be a good confidence boost for this group, as the schedule does kind of ease up a little bit here, where you could build some wins, stack a nice little 3 or 4 week stretch together, and feel good about yourself getting into that time where you really then need to step it up in March. So let's see. How do we play better against Maui teams? That's a good question. And, maybe the fact is, it's funny. the two losses that you suffered there, USC, and I saw it a little bit, USC as we speak, and I haven't seen an update in a while, USC's losing at home tonight to Maryland. Maryland's awful. They're one of the worst teams in the Big Ten. USC's obviously very talented. Musselman knows what he's doing, but, USC's a mid-pack Big Ten team, right? The other loss was NC State. They're a good team. They have some talented players, obviously. I don't know. Maybe they're probably not better than Utah State, and I don't think USC is either. And the fact is, if San Diego State plays the way that they're capable of playing, those two teams may not be better than San Diego State either. So, you kind of have to. And Boise was right in there with those teams. They played well in those games. They didn't play well in these games. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about this. Okay, Creamy just says that USC's up 6. They were losing before, so they must have went on a run. Larry says the neutral site games are much different than conference road games. No doubt about it. Okay, a lot of crazy things happen in those games. D. Coleman, Boise win by 5. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me, right? That wouldn't surprise me. But again, look, we'll see. So if you see me peeking down here, I don't have the TV in my setup in here, but I have the other computer on and the game's streaming on there. So I'm not going to watch it, but I'll peek down periodically just to kind of see what the score is and see what's going on. I probably will run close up until the final buzzer. Obviously, BJ's going to come on post-game right when the game is over with his show, so you can stick around for that and all that good stuff. But before I forget, make sure we get the subscriptions coming in. Had a nice little chunk pile in over the weekend, and then of course it slows when we're not broadcasting, which we didn't Sunday, Monday. So make sure you're subscribing to the channel here. It's on down there at the bottom, out Mountain West BNN, and you're watching through the YouTube. Okay, I would love that. Love the views any way we can get them, but this is where you can get the chat. Why can't we watch live? I don't know what you mean, D. Coleman. You can watch live. I just can't because I'm doing the show here. So you can certainly watch live and tell me what's going on. I won't be able to. I'm not going to watch the game and talk to you guys. So I'll kind of peek around as I'm going over the other games. So we've got 3 other games to discuss tonight. So do the subscriptions. That helps out, helps me, helps the network, helps out, all that stuff as we try to continue to grow this thing. So really pleased with what's going on so far. We've had a bunch of, I think, like we said, maybe 7 or 8 of the head coaches in some capacity featured on here. We're not going to abuse it, right? So we could have gotten Vance Wahlberg again tonight because they had a nice win. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But we just talked to him last week. So we're not going to abuse, and when I say abuse, I mean just abuse the privilege of getting these coaches on after every time they get a win. So maybe soon we'll get Eric Olin on. I know we've talked to New Mexico, and maybe we'll see what happens tomorrow night. We'll get somebody on then too. But not every night, and with it being kind of a jammed in here at halftime and want to be out of here before the game goes final so BJ can get on, will just be me in here tonight. So you're stuck listening to just me. And we're going to talk about the rest of the games now. So let me get to the game that I did not watch a ton of, admittedly. Did watch bits and pieces of it, okay? And this was the Spartans getting their first conference win, 70-62 final over the Air Force Academy. I didn't watch the first half because the 2 early games were going on. And then I put it on for the second half when the Boise game started. It was very low scoring at halftime. And look, Air Force played competitive. Now, same as the other night with the Spartans, they were missing guys. Garland was out again. Let me look at the box score here. So he played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He basically played 6 guys. Look at that. Look at the minutes distribution. He played 6 guys. So Miles played 6 guys, and then 2 guys got 3 minutes each. He's missing again Hannah, Javon Hannah, and then, of course, Garland and Washington and Moundy. So he's missing 4 of his key guys again. So he played 6 guys. And no offense to Langford, but I don't really know much about Langford at all. So he really played 5 guys, and Godarzi's not a starter. He's more of a bench guy to come in and shoot off the bench. I mean, he took 8 threes tonight because somebody needed to play, and he played 40 minutes. So Godarzi played all 40 minutes. He's a guy who, with a full roster, would get 16 to 18 minutes. Now, you're not going to get away with that against anybody other than Air Force, unfortunately. Now, this was one of Air Force's best chances for a conference win. They'll play San Jose at home. They'll have an opportunity, I guess, at home against UNLV, maybe at home against Fresno. I don't know, but there's not going to be many chances for them to get wins yet. They did cut this down to 5 in the last minute or two. I had the title of the episode here, all queued up with it crediting San Jose State with a win, but then and they were up like 11 with a minute and a half to go, and then it got down to 5, and I kind of panicked and deleted it because I didn't want to look like a fool, and I had to kind of get the thing in and get started. So obviously Miles and crew did pull it out. They shoot 47%. They make enough free throws. They only turn it over 9 times. You really shouldn't turn it over a lot against Air Force. What do we see from the Falcons in there? A lot of balance. Hoban with 16 tonight. Walker with 9. Sanders 11. Greenberg 13. So, again, I mean, look, I hate to say it because the teams are playing hard, right? But you watch that game, and it just doesn't look the same as the other games that we watched tonight in terms of everything, in terms of atmosphere in the stands. Now, look, Fresno didn't have a crowd either, but just the product on the floor, it just doesn't look like a Mountain West game. Fortunately, most of the others that you'll watch all season will. And so, yeah, Larry, good question. The Air Force 7-footer, you're talking about Selahowski. I think 51 is his number. It's just weird with those guys. I mean, the fact is, like, look, these players at the service academies, they do not put a lot of skill time in. I don't think, like, working on their game is the fact of the matter, right? I'm not saying they never touch a basketball, but they have other duties that they're worried about. If you go to one of the other schools in this conference, you're working on your game, okay? Like when you're not at school, I mean, you're doing your schoolwork, right? You're in a gym, you're lifting, you're getting shots up, you're working on your game. They don't have that dedication in Air Force, and they really shouldn't. They have other things that they're doing, right? And so a lot of times their players, I don't want to say they regress, but they just stay status quo while other teams go above them. That's why oftentimes with the Air Force, the freshmen end up being better because they're still all after it, and they're fresh and all that stuff. And the veterans just aren't like that. So yeah, Selahowski was a pretty good player last year. He's been surpassed by Walker this year, and now he didn't even start today. He's been coming off the bench, and I mean, you see that a lot of times. It happened last year too. There was a guy, and I can't even remember his name anymore for Air Force. So Scott's been known to do that with guys, and I mean, look, he's obviously playing guys that he trusts and thinks can get the job done. So I don't know, but look, good. Congratulations, and good for Miles and the Spartans getting a win. They're going to be few and far between for that team too. Yeah, as Steve says, both teams needed a win. Congratulations to Coach Miles. Yeah, there's not going to be a ton of oh, yes, that was it, Larry. Very good. Thank you. It was – wait, let me get rid of that one. It was Bo Becker. It was Bo Becker was the guy last year who 2 years ago played pretty well, and I was like, oh, Becker. And then he was hurt early on, and then he just never got into the flow, and Scott pretty much bagged him, and I didn't understand it. And then it's just one of those things where, look, like, he's not going to not play the guy if he can play, right? Yeah, the best players, Bronco, you got it. They don't go to Air Force to play basketball, right? They just don't, and that's fine. But again, that's, as we've discussed before, that's why they're out of place big time in this league. So look, credit to Miles and his crew for getting one here, and we'll see what's in store for them moving forward. Number one, they got to get their guys back, right? They're again, without Washington, Garland, Maundi, and Hannah, they're not beating anybody else. You like to see them at least compete like a Miles team can with a full lineup. I don't remember who they have coming up this weekend, but man, you know, if they don't get those guys back, it's just going to be a rough stretch here moving forward for Miles' crew. Okay, now let's get to these two games that early, I say, for me, not really early, 9 Eastern, for me, 7 Mountain, for you guys, 6 Pacific, the two games that went simultaneously. And look, they were good basketball games. I guess we'll hit on the CSU Fresno game first. So let me kind of just pump these on here for a minute. And look, Fresno, credit to Wahlberg and his crew, okay? First half, they took it to CSU. Not a great effort in the first half from CSU. Look at the shooting numbers. Both teams shoot 46%. Yeah, Bulldogs made a few. Well, actually, they made the same number of threes. It's just that CSU took a ton more. The difference was at the free throw line. Fresno 23 for 24. Hyde-Brader 16 for 16. That's incredible. And the Rams only 9 of 12. But, 11 turnovers for the Rams, and their assists only what do they have? Only 11 assists on 26 makes. They're used to that number or the percentage being way higher, both under Medved and in a non-con here under Ali. And so it's disappointing. Their first half, they were really, really out of rhythm offensively. Some of the credit can go to Fresno and their defense, but some of it, as Craig says, poor Swole. Yeah, poor Steve. I don't, Steve and I were exchanging a few texts during the game. And he's disappointed. And I mean, look, there's a lot of things going on. We've beaten the Jorgensen thing to death. He's not in the lineup. Bemba got in foul trouble tonight. But listen, they weren't smooth offensively, and that there's just not enough depth there. And so when you got to go to some of the guys, I don't really want to name the guys, but when you got to go to some of the guys off the bench, they struggled tonight, and that was kind of the difference in the game. Because you know what? It was crazy for how bad. Thank you, Timothy. I asked who San Jose played. UNLV at San Jose. Well, if Miles gets those guys back on Saturday night, that is 100% a winnable game for Miles and his crew, because we've seen UNLV capable of losing to just about anybody. Now, back to this one here is, look, for how well the Bulldogs started out in the first half, the Rams came out like a house on fire. They scored 22 points total in the first half and then had 15 like in the first 5 minutes of the second half. Wahlberg calls timeout. They had cut it to 4. It was like a 16-point game. Not only did they cut it to 4, then they tied it. And at that point, there's, 13-ish minutes left. And I'm sure many people watching had the feeling that, look, this is the Rams game right now. They were playing confident. They looked smooth offensively. They probably had more assists in that little stretch there in the first 6 or 7 minutes of the second half than they did in the entire first half. And then all of a sudden, credit Fresno, they just made plays tonight. When they needed to make a shot, they did. When they needed to get a stop, they did. When they needed to make a smart play, they did. And it was balance. It was, as I put these back on the screen, Hydrater again said 16 for 16 from the line. He had 23 points and 16 of them are from the line. So he only scored 7 points from the field. He made 1 3 and had 2 2s. So it wasn't even Hydrater. It was everybody. Collins, 5 assists in his return. And you know what? I did want to say this too. Douglas, 12. He looked good. He got the start today. The big guy, Jack, only 8 points, 2 for 7. So he was defended well inside. And Gorey with 14. But here's what I wanted to say. And I'm not accusing them of doing this, but it was almost like Fresno and Wahlberg sandbagged the game on Saturday against San Diego State. Now, I know they didn't, but here's why I say that. They had been in that stretch there where they competed really hard against both Utah State and Nevada, came up just short. Then they get that really good win on the road at San Jose. And then they went and played that game at Viejas, where they're a big underdog. And Collins, look, I'm sure he was hurt. He wants to play, okay? He's played for 12 years now in college. He wants to play, but he was fine all leading up to that game, and then he's on the injury report, and then he doesn't play. He tried to give it a go, he couldn't play. Totally fine, understandable, right? But then he comes out and plays tonight, and I didn't see any sign of him being limited in any capacity. So again, I'm not saying they sandbagged the game, but it's almost as if Wahlberg was load managing. And he knew that, they didn't really have a chance in that game against the Aztecs in Viejas. And this was a game that they could get at home against CSU. And let's save them, not play them. And that's what they did. And it worked out. So, I don't know that that's what happened, but I just kind of popped into my head. And I was like, I wonder if that's, but anyway, because he looked good. He was fine. And they got contributions from everybody up and down the lineup. And massive credit to them, because when you come out, you blow a double-digit lead like that, and all the momentum is in your opponent's favor, it's easy to just kind of let it keep going down a drain, and you fall behind big time. And they didn't do that. So good credit to Wahlberg and his guys. They made the winning plays that they had to, and they got another league win, so good for them. Okay, let's get to the game that I really wanted to talk about here. Just looking over, UNLV just hit a 3 to tie it with 15. We're about to go to the under 16 here. So one game that really got to spend some time talking about here, and that's the New Mexico Grand Canyon game. And let me get these up here quickly, the stats for that game. I mean, listen, here's the thing. This team is they're just very good right now. I mean, there's no other way to shake it. Okay. It takes me a little bit of time to get on board sometimes with things. I can admit when I'm wrong. I'm not super stubborn about it, right? Like I see things and I'll be like, you know what? Yeah, okay. And so that's what I'm seeing with the Lobos, right? Like they're just a very good basketball team right now. They are. They do everything right. And I made the analogy. I'm sure some of you were here on Friday when, or maybe it was Saturday, when I made like the analogy with Olin and Signetti, right? And it's just like when Signetti calls the plays, he just knows they're going to work, right? I didn't watch much of that game against Oregon at all because there were basketball games on or whatever, and I'm not really interested in it. But like I get the feeling like he calls these plays and he's like laughing internally to himself because he knows that they're going to work and he knows that he's going to out scheme the opponent. And I just feel like this Lobo team is playing with such confidence right now. They just know that whatever they do is going to work. Okay. Doesn't mean that they're going to make every shot, and it doesn't mean that they're going to get a stop every time down the floor. Okay. But by and large, and this is a huge thing, like let's not kid ourselves here. This does not always happen. That if you buy in to the game plan that your coach sets up on both ends of the floor, that you're going to be successful. It's called trust, okay? And you might think, well, no kidding, duh, right? But it doesn't work like that. Like not every team, not every player has the buy-in of their staff, right? They don't. Like some guys go off script. You see it sometimes. That's how guys get in the doghouse. They go off script, okay? And I see very little of that from New Mexico, okay? Now, Olin obviously allows some things, maybe that I wouldn't, right? There's still, as you watch them, some shot selection that I don't think is like A+ out of anything on this team that I would critique. It's the shot selection. But man, like when things, and you make your own breaks, don't get me wrong, you make your own breaks. But when, they got guys out there making threes that I wouldn't classify as shooters, okay? But they take, by and large, good shots, okay? And, perfect example of like just whatever he does works is the end of the half, right? Like you got that use it or lose it timeout in the first half. Most guys or teams or coaches have used it by the minute mark of the half for whatever reason, right? Or certainly by like the 30-second mark or 40-second mark, you've used it. You don't have it anymore. Well, Grand Canyon makes a shot with like 4 seconds left, and Olin, wise, very sharp, not many guys would do this, calls a timeout immediately because he knows the clock is running, and if he doesn't call it, they're going to have to throw up a 75-footer, right? Well, he calls it immediately to stop the clock. Brilliant. And what do? Tanet hits a 35-footer. So, like, there might be 2 out of every 10 coaches. I'm not saying in the Mountain West. I'm saying in the country. Like, probably 2 out of every 10 coaches in the country would do that, okay? And he does it. Like, he just has it. He just has the knack for pushing the right buttons, okay? Doesn't mean he makes every single decision right. It doesn't mean he's going to win every game, okay? But by and large, the decisions that he makes are right, okay? He just knows what he's doing, okay, as far as like being a game coach. Now, there might be some Lobo fans that don't like the way that he's not like an outgoing extrovert like Richard Pitino was, okay? But as I've said many times about different coaches and all that stuff, everybody's got things that they're good at. Well, most guys do anyway, okay? It's very difficult to check every single box, okay? So you take what you can get, and if you don't like the pluses that Olin brings, well, then you go follow somebody else, okay? But you should like what he brings because he's been bringing a lot. Okay? I do want to get to some of the comments here because there were some very good comments here on the Lobos, and then I will get back to to the Boise game here, as it's still tied. They just came back from the timeout. What did I see on the New Mexico game here? And so give me a second. Okay, so it says Olin changed how they normally play. Made a ton of mid-range jumpers, defense, high shooting percentage, along with a double technical. So let's get to that a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about Grand Canyon. And we'll mix back some Lobo talk, and I'll put the stats up here for a second, because obviously one of the things that happened then was Bryce Drew with a pretty rare, as far as I know, for him, ejection. He doesn't really get animated often from what I've seen with the officials. Now, in the first half, it seemed like the calls were going their way a little bit. And then even early in the second half, too, there were a bunch of fouls called on New Mexico in a hurry. Okay. Now, for the game, the fouls were 22-11, Grand Canyon, and the foul shots were 28-15. But again, look, it's a home game for New Mexico. I don't know what Drew expects. It's not like the whistles were slanted against Grand Canyon the whole game. They weren't. So I'm not really sure what Drew's game plan was there, and it didn't work. Now, part of that is because of New Mexico, right? Like, they were on point today. They just have it rolling. And like, I couldn't believe when I looked at the score, because, you know, you guys that are Lobo fans, you're locked in, like, you know what you're up all the time. You're following it. I'm trying to watch two games, and I'm trying to analyze what I'm watching. And so I'm not fixated on the score every single second that the game's on, right? And then I look down and it's like a 21-point game, and I'm thinking, how in the hell did that happen? Like, Grand Canyon, I didn't think they played poorly, right? I didn't think they played poorly at all. It's just that New Mexico just smothered them. Like, their defense is incredible right now. They held the Lopes to 34% shooting, 7 for 27 from the three. That's too many threes attempted for Grand Canyon. I've said that before. They're not a great three-point shooting team. Now, part of that was dictated by game flow, right? When you're down by double figures in the second half, you need to do that. Some of it also is dictated by the fact that you're not allowed to penetrate because of the excellent defense by your opponent. UNLV up 5 here with 13 to go, as somebody just hit a three, might have been Gibbs Lawhorn. But look, it's about the Lobo defense, because I think there were various points in this game. An early second half, the Lopes tied it up. They came out of the locker room with a good game plan. They cut the 5-point deficit down. I think New Mexico might have got the first bucket, and then from there, I think Grand Canyon went a little run and tied the game, maybe at 40 or 42 or something like that. And then after that, it was just all New Mexico. But there were a couple different stages of the game where I'm saying to myself, you know, this Grand Canyon team is much improved from November. They look like a totally different team. Henley has really played well. He had 17 tonight, 34 minutes. You know, Owusu Anane really struggled. Look at that, 1 for 10 and 1 for 6 from the three. That's too many threes for him to attempt. It really is. Demeril 0 for 4. So the two bigs for the Lopes, 1 for 14. That's pretty good interior defense. And I didn't even talk about Mr. Rock yet, as Olin only played 8 guys. But look at that. 8 guys got between 20 and 29 minutes. You don't see that a lot at all in college basketball. All 8 guys that played between 20 and 29 minutes. That's very, very rare. That's pretty impressive. Yes, Steve, Hall was unbelievable again. And I will say this, because I had questioned at the end of non-con whether Hall would be able to carry this over into Mountain West Conference play. And it seems as if the answer is yes. This was against a very good defensive team, okay? Is it the best defense he will play? No, but it's still a very good defense. The Lopes, that's their calling card this year, okay, is their defense. And they obviously have Hall starred off on the board in the locker room pregame, in the walkthrough, in the scout, all of that stuff, okay? That didn't matter. He is very crafty. He's very smart. He knows how to use the shot fake, the ball fake, the pump fake to get you off balance, lean in, draw a foul. He can shoot a little fadeaway or a step back. He knows how to score the ball. And if he's doing it against good defensive teams like this, I don't know who he won't do it against. Now, look, he didn't have a great game when they played up at Boise, fine, but he has certainly carried it forward from that game. Steve says Lobos out-rebounded them. Yeah, their inside play was good, and I have worried or wondered who was going to get some boards if it wasn't Buljan. And you look at Chol with 6 tonight, Haupt with 7, Miller with 6 as a guard off the bench. So talk about team rebounding. That's something that the staff is going to stress, and you're doing it. So Mackenzie says I appreciate that. Yeah, you look, I'm not going to be stubborn and just like stick to my guns. I don't like to be wrong. And that's sometimes why I get upset at players or teams, because they make me look foolish. But like, look, it happens, right? I'll make some bad calls sometimes. Jared was at the pit today. Good crowd. Such a blowout. The fans didn't really get into it. GCU has yet to experience a true pit game. Yeah, Lobos go on the road on Saturday to Viejas. So we'll see when we get a real pit game coming up against one of the heavy hitters soon. Adam says, go Lobos. Larry, my question for Olin, if he could get UNLV-type athletes that are willing to execute his system, the answer is no. Olin has his guys. And that's a very good point, right? So let's look back to April, May, after Olin got the job and he was accumulating this roster. And I think I've said this at some point before, and it was probably even before they caught fire here, when I just said, look, he's getting guys that fit his system. He's used to playing this system. He did it at UCSD. Now, granted, the competition in the Big West the last few years is not what he sees here in the Mountain West. But, and I know, look, he's not the only guy like this, but coaches have egos, okay? He trusts in what he knows, what he believes in, what his philosophy is, and what he's going to coach his guys to do. And he knows the type of player he wants for it. So if you would switch the rosters, or let's just say this, if you would take the two rosters and put them on different teams in a different conference with different coaches, it's certainly possible that, maybe not, because I have soured on some of UNLV's pieces, but it's possible that the UNLV roster would be better or certainly equal to the New Mexico roster. Okay, not a given, but it's possible. But not with the current coaches that they have, not even close. So to Larry's point, Olin has exactly who he wants. Okay, now you might think I'm nuts, and sure, would he turn down what's Boozer's name? Caden Boozer? Would he turn down a Debansa? Would he turn down a guy like that? I'm sure not, right? If Toppin was still wearing a cherry and red, would cherry and white, would he take that? I'm sure he would, okay? But I'm pretty sure he's okay with the guys that he has, all right? Because he knows that they're guys that fit his system, okay? And Jared just kind of said it. Olin is very particular with his recruits. Has to be dudes that buy in, no egos allowed. And you're seeing that. You're seeing that, okay? That's stuff that's coached in practice where you do a lot of your coaching. And that's the thing that we don't think about. We watch how these coaches handle guys in the game. It's how you handle the guys in practice. When you do, like, doesn't necessarily have to be live scrimmaging, but you do some of that. But when you're doing other things, running through sets or drills or defensive drills or whatever it is, and you're not doing what is stressed or coach wants you to do, and he coaches you out of it, or does the coach just let it go because he's focused on somebody else or he wants the drill to be over? How does that work? So when you get coached like that, they coach you out of those mistakes, so you don't do those in the games. Okay. Let's see, Adam. UNLV's playing good. Does not look good for Boise. Yeah, I think still a 5-point game with 11 to go. Boise has not scored a lot here in the second half. Craig, we'll see what's up at Viejas. Yeah, look, no doubt about it. They're going to have their biggest challenge of the season on Saturday against a team who's playing well. We'll see what the Aztecs do tomorrow. Slight advantage to the Lobos in that the Aztecs have a day less of prep, and they're going to be coming back from an altitude game. So that's a little bit of an edge. Obviously, that's negated by the home court advantage here for San Diego State. But I mean, look, they're going to go in their confidence. Like I said, they just believe that what they do is going to work because they have faith in their staff. Like that comes from from just like listening to, like, these guys have played for, I don't know, 3-4 coaches, right? Most of these guys. Now, obviously, Hall's a little bit different, and so is Tenet as freshmen. But Bouljan, who knows how many guys he played for in Europe. Same thing with the rest of these guys. These guys have played for 4 or 5 coaches. They know which guys know what they're talking about and which guys don't. And when you have a guy now who coaches you and you're like, man, this guy knows his stuff, like, trust me, like, that matters. And it gets you that extra little bit of buy-in, right? Let's see. What else do I want to put on here about that game? Craig, Rock was really good tonight, and he's playing with confidence, hit a 3 out there. He doesn't do things he shouldn't really do, right? Like, he earned that 3 because he was playing solid inside. And I had to look at the stats to see if he even forced another one, because I don't think he did. And he did. He missed 1. He hit 2 out of 3. Okay. But I mean, look, most guys will be forcing other ones after you hit 2 out of 3. I mean, I'll take that any day of the week if you're him. But he finished strong inside. He was a physical presence. As we mentioned, his big guys for the Lopes struggled on the interior to score. So, I mean, that's a great job by Rock, who was a guy in November that I wasn't really sure he'd be able to contribute much. So he's been coached up. He's been given a role, and he plays it really well. Alonzo, Drew, not used to the pit. It's ironic because I just said that the Lopes had played better on the road, and their sideline reporter the other night said that they seem to feel more comfortable away from all of that circus that goes on when they have that stuff at their home games. But look, sometimes, again, you just have to credit the opponent. And Craig said it here. They defended the full 40, and they, I mean, that's all there is to it. Okay. And yes, I agree with this absolutely, Larry. Haupt is like a coach on the court. Yes, that's why I said before that people have talked about Howell being an Olin guy because he came with Olin from UCSD. Haupt did not. He came from the NAIA or D2 Point Loma, I think it was, something like that. But he is a coach on the court, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's coaching somewhere in a few years, like the Jared Lucas route, because he knows what he's doing, and those are the guys you love. Olin, he loves those guys because his discipline I used to have a formula. Discipline over individual agenda is what I called it. This was back when I was coaching in high school years ago. Discipline over individual agenda. And that's kind of what I talked about before, right? What's your discipline over individual agenda rate? Okay. In other words, are you doing what your coach wants you to do, or do you have your own individual agenda? Are you out there to try and score? Are you out there to try and accumulate steals or blocks on defense when it's not in the game plan? Are you out there trying to just pile up stats, or are you sticking to the game plan, even if it might sacrifice some of your individual numbers? And some guys don't score as highly on that. Luke Haupt 100% does. He's a guy I'd love to have, even if he's not going to stick out on the stat sheet or jump off the page like in the warm-up line, right? That's a guy that Olin would take 100 times out of 100, okay? Jared says, I think they're better without Hal. Haupt is better in all facets. There's no doubt he's certainly been better than Hal in those games before Hal got injured. So I said it a week ago, or a week and a half ago. It's only become more pronounced now. Very interested to see how Olin handles this. And if you heard Jeff Grammer on here, whether it was his last appearance or the one before that, said that when Hal comes back, there's no doubt he's going to go back in and get minutes. Now, will he start? Maybe not, but you can bet your butt he'll be in there within a few minutes, and he's going to play anywhere from 16 to 21 minutes, 23 minutes a game based on how the game flow is, because Olin trusts him. Now, yes, Haupt has earned more minutes, but again, until Hal goes in there and really starts sticking out like a sore thumb as a minus player out there, he's going to get minutes. So I don't know. Let's see. It's as Steve said, it's taken a lot of us time to get used to Olin's style of play. Yeah, there's no doubt it was a different type of what you're used to seeing. So Rock played more due to foul trouble. Yeah, that could have been it. So Hal might still be out a few weeks. Yeah, I mean, look, I hate to say it, but that, do you really want to rock the boat right now the way that you're playing? I mean, look, there's no guarantee that they're going to go in and win on Saturday. They're going to be an underdog in the game, probably by 5 points or so. They'll have a chance to win, we'll see what happens with San Diego State tomorrow night. You can't expect to go into Viejas and win, just like San Diego State can't expect to go down to the pit in a month and a half or whatever it is and win that game either. That's why you got to protect your home court. But I wouldn't want to bet against this Lobo team the way they're playing. Now, they go in there and lose by 12, and I'd say, well, it's a college basketball game on the road. They're difficult to win, okay? But I still like the way they're playing, and they certainly now, as you know, the metrics continue to just keep on the rise here, and I know I shouldn't really do it, but I'll kind of reference Lenardi. Grammer joked about it, but he had the Lobos in the last four and the first four out, so clearly he screwed something up there. But the fact is that they're right on the fringe there. And now we know Lenardi's not the ace bracketology guy he was 15 years ago, but I would trust him enough and some of the others that I've seen enough to know that they're around in that fringe range right now. There's a lot of games left. Can they slide through here these next 7 weeks or so without a bad loss and get a few more good wins? If they can do that, they're going to be in a position where, yeah, they can get an at-large, right? And it won't hurt them if they lose on Saturday. Now, it's like a freebie. It's like a free roll, right? It's like a free spin on the wheel, okay? You get this win, it's massive for your metrics. You lose the game, it's not going to hurt you at all. You have to get some big wins later down the road, but it's not a bad loss if you lose on Saturday. Yes, Larry, well known that Patino tried to out-talent the opponent, and he often did, right? I don't think it's too critical of Richard to say that he did not win many games as a Lobo coach when he did not have the more talented roster. So this, how about this? Lonzo Ball can do it all. Can he? So he went to Olin's UCSD camp, and Hal was an incoming freshman, helped out with drills, hadn't reached 6'6" yet. Got some good players to show for that. Yeah, that's why coaches do that stuff. I mean, obviously it's a moneymaker, but at this day and age, they don't really need the money for that stuff. It's to bring recruits on and get around all that stuff of visits and all that stuff. If you like a guy, you invite him to your camp. And I know not every school does that anymore at the D1 level. A lot of the smaller schools will do it, D2s, D3s, and I guess UCSD may have even been D2 at that time. But UNLV up 5 with 8.5 to go, 60-55. So the Broncos, I guess it was 40-39, really struggling here offensively in the second half. Looks like they're going to go to the line for 2, but a little bit of time to go in that one. So, yeah, I don't know, like what else we can go over here. Let me just on Saturday. So so tomorrow, let's preview tomorrow and talk about the rest of the week here. So tomorrow, a really well set up doubleheader on CBS Sports with the San Diego State-Wyoming game at 8 Eastern my time, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. And then immediately following that will be Nevada at Utah State, 10 Eastern for me, 8 Mountain, 7 Pacific. So we won't have any unless it goes double overtime. We'll get to see all of both games, which is beautiful. And it won't be too late. It'll be midnight-ish, probably 12:15 by the time that second game is over. And then I'll come to you live right away for the post game on Wednesday night. Now, Friday, I think it's CSU at Boise is the solo game on Friday. So much like last week's Grand Canyon Boise game on Wednesday, with that being a solo game, I will not have a Friday show. We'll let BJ do his post game after that one solo on Friday. But then, of course, with a 5-pack on Saturday, I'll be back. And it's an earlier show, too. That, as I just said, this is great. I had referenced before that we, being the Mountain West, will always get the short end of the stick when it comes to times, and that's why the games are so late. Well, to their credit, on this weekend, CBS chose the New Mexico-San Diego State game to be 8 Eastern in prime time, and then scheduled the Big 12 game after it at 10 Eastern, which is very rare. I think it's Oklahoma State, Kansas State, so not exactly the top of the heap in the Big 12. But for them to prioritize a Mountain West game over a Big 12 game is pretty cool. So that is the only game in that time slot in the conference, and it's the last game. So that is going to probably be over 10 Eastern-ish, 8 Mountain. Right after that game is over at Viejas, I will come live recapping the 5-day card on Saturday. Of course, I'll have some thoughts, too, on the Friday night game between CSU and Boise. Those two teams are both struggling and will both need a win. As for tomorrow, I said it before, really not sure who to give the edge here to in that game. I mean, clearly, I didn't really look at the lines yet. I'm sure the Aztecs are a slight favorite, but it's never easy to go there and play. I talked about it the other night. Sundance's guys going to be playing with confidence. They played a good game against Nevada on the road. If they bring that effort again, they're going to be in the game for 40 minutes. There's no doubt about it, okay? Jer said the New Mexico San Diego State game gets a lot of national interest. It's why CBS main network goes to the pit every year for that game. They usually do. I remember the last few years. They certainly have, okay? And maybe they are this year too. I don't even remember. But you are absolutely right, Jer. They definitely love that matchup, and it's a good one. Both teams playing well. Now, Wyoming could spoil that party a little bit tomorrow night if they knock off the Aztecs. But yes, both of those teams are trending up. They're playing very good basketball. It should be a showcase game then. I'm not sure what other games, I didn't look yet, around the country are on. I'm sure there's a football game on at that point on Saturday. But I would expect college hoop fans to be invested in that one, especially Mountain West fans. I know Lobo Nation will be watching out in full force. Now, the late game tomorrow night, I mean, look, how do you go against Utah State, right? Like, Nevada can play a very good game and still come up short. There's no shame in that, right? Like, they're going to be CBS is coming again. Jer says, okay, well, that's great. I knew they had a few games and we didn't get any yet. So I figured that was one that might be on the docket. So very good. Look, it's going to be difficult for anybody to. So Varg says that's a huge number. I'm looking at it as a Nevada fan, 13.5. I mean, listen, and Larry says 12.5. So it's in that 12 to 13 range. That's a huge spread. Now, listen, it's kind of warranted if you're from a Utah State perspective. They've drilled everybody, right? I mean, they're not taking any prisoners. They're being very efficient. I think they're even up into the teens in the net, in the 20s in Ken Palm. Like, they have just played efficient basketball. That's a very high spread. There's no doubt about it. I don't know what, like, my takes lately haven't been very solid, right? I don't know, I don't really give a ton, but I don't think my track record has been super. So I don't even know what to think about that. I mean, clearly it's going to take a Herculean effort for Nevada to get the win. Now, can they hang in there for a while? They certainly can. But again, they could hang in there for 33 minutes and still lose the game by 15. Like, Utah State just has a ridiculous amount of firepower. And they got guys that can shoot. They got guys that can finish inside. They can beat you on the break. They can get some stops and beat you on the glass. If guy A and B in the starting lineup isn't playing well, Calhoun will go to guys C and D off the bench. So they just come at you in waves, and it's different guys every night. They have a guy, and he hasn't played well this year, but they have a guy in Tucker Anderson who would get minutes for a lot of teams in the conference, and he's been buried on the bench. Boise just went on a 7-0 run to take a 62-60 lead. As I look down, and Parolin just bullied his way in for a bucket. Passner maybe just called a timeout, but that's a pretty nice run here by Boise as Gibbs Lawhorn misses a three. So 6 minutes to go in that one. I mean, listen, that's, I don't know that we'll get an upset tomorrow. I like that Nevada squad. But again, I would have to say the odds are that Utah State does not lose a home game this year in conference. Difficult to go 10-0. Obviously, all it takes is one bad night. But, I mean, the way that they play, after the whole big deal made about their fan base traveling to Boise on Saturday, that their fans, their students, they will be out in full force tomorrow for this one. Okay, again, it's one of those where this might be the last matchup in the spectrum between these two teams for who knows how long, right? So you'll get a rabid fan base. The students are extra juiced up because they just got all kind of notoriety from what they did, which is incredible. You don't see that in college at the D1 level, like in opposing students, a visiting student section get that kind of like publicity for something that you do at a road game. Pretty impressive, 4 hours away or not. So they'll certainly be out at the Spectrum tomorrow night. I just don't see Nevada having enough to do it. I wouldn't expect Rollison to play. His back's probably going to flare up. Armor Trading still be out. Alford has enough guys to play. I just think it's asking a lot. And I did see. I don't really care about rankings, as I've talked about before, but it is pretty cool to see Utah State get some recognition being in the poll at 23. Larry says it feels like a situation for the Aggies to not have their A game tomorrow night. Certainly could, right? I mean, they just brought it in the A of A efforts on Saturday up at Boise. They've been rolling everybody. So, yeah, certainly could have a little bit of a letdown here, but their B game might be enough to do it, right? Jair, certainly familiar with Alford from his time at the Pit, lost some of his aura. Not sure he can get his team to win a tough road game like this, like he has in the past. We'll see. You know, he got the win at CSU. Now that win hasn't aged as well, as the Rams are now 2-4 in conference play. But at the time, that was a good win. Clearly, he didn't do it last year, but I do like the way the team is playing. I don't think they're playing poorly. And even a 12-point loss tomorrow, I'm not going to be like, yeah, they're just not that good. I've seen enough. I like what he brings. I like what his guys do. I like the way they play. He had a very good effort to beat a stubborn Wyoming team on Saturday night. They're just running up against an animal tomorrow night in the Aggies. Now, maybe Larry's right and they won't have their A game. It's possible, okay? But look, I wouldn't be surprised at anything we see tomorrow night, okay? Unfortunately, I'd like to think we get a nice crowd at the AA, but it probably won't happen. So we'll be able to hear Sundance on the broadcast a little bit, cheering and cheering his guys on and trying to urge them on to victory. We'll see what the Aztecs do. We'll see if we get the Gwath that we got on Saturday. Now, granted, the opponent wasn't great, but we saw the best Gwath we've seen since probably before he got injured in February against Utah State that night. So if he can do that, that's a tough matchup for Wyoming because they don't have anybody that can check him, right? Magassa and guys like that, they're going to be out there to take fouls. They don't have anybody that can check Gwath, right? So I get it, Larry. Yeah, you don't think they're going to lose. You could see it an 8 to 10 point win where Utah State sneaks inside of that 12 or 13 point number. Totally understand that. I could see that too. But back to the other one. Look, if Gwath brings his A game tomorrow, it's going to be a difficult matchup for Wyoming. So maybe Sundance tries to just run and make it a 94-foot game for 40 minutes to try to tire San Diego State out. Now, the Aztecs have a deep bench, but at altitude where they're not used to it, maybe he gets Dutcher to play some guys that Dutcher doesn't want to play for as many minutes as he has to play them tomorrow. Maybe that's Sundance's hope. I don't know. We'll have to see, and that's what's interesting about it, right? Sometimes I break these games down. I think about them a lot. After I'm done on these shows or my pod, I think about what else I could have said and how else I think the game could play out. And then the games play out totally different when I watch them. And it's not because sometimes it's because the coaches have a different thought than me, but sometimes it's just the way the game flow is. And that's what basketball is, right? This isn't football where the plays are scripted. It's basketball and they have a lot more autonomy to do their own thing. And it just doesn't go the way that you map it out sometimes. So interested to see what happens tomorrow night. Now, we got about 4 minutes left in this Boise game. Fielder just scored to go up 2. We're about to get to the under 4 timeout here. So I appreciate everybody coming in here. I've gone about an hour. A lot of good people in here watching. Please do me a favor. Go to the YouTube channel and subscribe if you have not. All right, at Mountain West BNN. It's right there on the bottom of the ticker, right there. I see it, at Mountain West BNN. Go subscribe to that, okay? Help out our sponsors, Sun Cruiser Vodka. I did not crack one open tonight. It's a school night. It's 1 a.m. Got to get to bed soon. I'll watch the end of this game. But support our sponsors here, Sun Cruiser, and go subscribe to the YouTube channel, all right? Thanks, BJ, for that nice intro he put together. Do me a favor. Stick around for more of the Boise chatter on BJ's live show as soon as this one goes final. It just went to the under 4. Boise with a 4-point lead. Come back tomorrow, too. Who knows what we'll have going on? Maybe we'll have a guest. We'll have somebody in. Maybe BJ will come in. Maybe we'll get Jeff Grammer. Maybe we'll get a coach. We'll have to see who's hanging around and who deserves to be on, right? And that'll be Wednesday. And then, of course, the big one on Saturday night. So appreciate all of you guys hanging out. on another night in the Mountain West. You guys enjoy the last 4 minutes of this game out in Vegas, and we'll catch you tomorrow night. Good night, folks.